This is the Spirit and Wellness Show. News and information from a higher perspective. With your host, Harry Wilkinson.
Yes, hello and welcome to the Spirit and Wellness Show. This is your host, Harry Wilkinson. And this is the show where we take a look at the days and weeks events, happenings in the world of politics, in the world of entertainment, everything that affects us in our world. And we take a look at it from a higher perspective. We take a look at it in a way that is more healthful, I think, than reacting to what may be upsetting information, stories, media. You know, we all are exposed to this more and more in the world that we live in, with a rather startling immediacy, right? Through social media, Twitter, 24-hour news networks. When something happens, we tend to hear about it almost immediately. And we live in times when we hear about or know about things all over the world that 20, 30 years ago we might not have heard of at all, or if we did, we would have heard about it with a certain distance. In other words, without the immediacy. And that distance, by the way, gives time for the situation to become more understood, as well as far as, you know, presenting it in a news format is concerned. But when you have the immediate impact, the immediacy of getting information out at the moment it happens, a lot of misinformation comes out, a lot of confusion comes out. But most of all, it feels like, at sometimes, it feels like we're being bombarded by all kinds of information. So taking the step back, taking a look at all of these things, and not looking at them as if they are attacking you, but going within and looking for what it tells us about ourselves and how we are creating the situations that present themselves. You know, anytime a situation presents itself in your life or anyone else's life, and particularly if they are collective situations that we're all aware of and going through, these are moments that we have created to grow and expand from. So that's what we try to do. And on this show today, we're going to talk about, this week was the autumn equinox. So we're going to talk about that a little bit, what that means. We're going to talk about Rosh Hashanah, which was also this week. So what that means from the perspective of the Hebrew religion. We're going to talk about the world together, particularly something rather special that happened over this weekend called the Global Citizen Festival. And we're going to continue to talk about the new breakthroughs in scientific research on psi phenomena or psychic phenomena. You know, there's often a knee-jerk reaction from people when you say psychic. Their immediate response to that is BS. But there is a wealth of valid, testable and repeatable scientific study that shows the existence of such phenomena. And I spoke last week about this, and it's a common topic on this show that for whatever reasons, for certain reasons that we'll talk about later in the show, particularly the scientific community, the mainstream scientific community, but the mainstream community in general is more comfortable with psychic being in fiction or in shows that have sort of a dubious reputation that can be laughed at or scoffed at and dismissed, rather than take it as something that actually exists as a viable phenomena. So we're going to continue our talk about what all that means. But first, let's get to an interesting yoga pose that might be helpful for you this time of the year. This time of the year, particularly autumn, is quite hectic. No matter where you happen to be in your life, if you're a parent and getting the kids back to school, if you're a student yourself and going back to school, or even if you're just in the workforce and coming out of maybe vacation mode and going into what is the sort of the last part of the calendar year, at least. It does tend to get hectic, so it's great to have something to take a break with that can help you relax. And this yoga pose is a standard and a staple of any yoga practice. It's one of the first things that you do, and it's called the bridge pose. And it's very simple, and the benefits are enormous. It can help with stress. It can help with back pain. It helps open the chest and give you flexibility in your hips. It strengthens the abdominal and core muscles. It can help in improve digestion and also in flexibility of the spine, as well as it can also help with depression and also nasal decongestion and that sort of thing too. So it has a lot of really good potential benefits. So here's how we do the bridge pose. Now you're just going to lie on the floor, and you can use a folded blanket, or if you have a yoga mat that you use, or whatever you like to you can put under your shoulders if you feel like you need to protect your back and neck. So then what happens is you bend your knees and place your feet flat on the floor, and they're going to be parallel to each other and about hip width apart. So one foot sort of directly in line with each hip. Your arms are at your sides, and your palms face down on the floor. Now slowly, we'll do some breathing first. So in and out breathing. And on an exhale, slowly lift your hips towards the ceiling. You're going to keep your knees and your thighs parallel. And engage the muscles of your lower back, your thighs, your abdomen, to keep the body taut and firm. Keep lifting those hips until the body is flat from your chest to your knees. Now, one key you can use to keep your neck loose and not put so much strain on it is to lift the chin away from the body, and that will help you not to not put too much strain on the neck. So you can hold this pose, maybe 30 seconds to start with, and as you get used to it, you can hold it for longer. And then when you release, you exhale and slowly roll the spine down, starting from your neck and ending at the hips. One vertebrae at a time. And you can repeat the pose a couple of times if you're comfortable with it and you find that your body is responding well to it. So, as I said, this is a pose that can help you with back pain if you have that. It can help you with flexibility, digestion, the abdominals. It can also relieve some symptoms of anxiety, fatigue, headache and insomnia. That's true of almost any yoga pose, by the way, but this one in particular. And basically it calms the mind and alleviates the stress of the day and, lifts some mild depression. So that's the bridge pose. You can find more about the bridge pose. You can go to YouTube, and I'll post a video on my Metaphysical Media Facebook page. That's H. Wilkinson Media on Facebook. And you can see your own yoga. You can see how to do the bridge pose. It's a great tool to use. You can also find out more about it at Dr. Andrew Weil's website. That's Dr. Weil, DRWEIL.com. And I will post that on my Facebook page as well. All right, so on we go to the autumnal equinox. Of course, this is the time of year when autumn comes in, and that means that daylight hours are equal to nighttime hours, and that speaks of balance. So it's a time when you can think about balance in your own life. If things have gotten feel a little bit top heavy in one area of your life or another, you can think about clearing out some things. And it's interesting the sort of trends that we have when autumn comes around. We think about spring cleaning, but autumn is another time when we start cleaning, we start renovating. I see a lot of the contractors out, they're being hired to do painting or clean gutters or what have you. So you see a lot of this happening around this time of year. It's very cyclical, and it seems almost intuitive that people tend to clean out, rejuvenate, get ready for something new. It's always felt to me, and probably because my birthday is in autumn, but it's always felt to me like the start of a new year. And also, as far as our memories of school, and if you happen to still be going to school, or if you teach as I do, September is the beginning of the new school year. So it's almost like the beginning of the year, as opposed to when we usually think of New Year's being January. And of course that brings us to Rosh Hashanah, which was also this week, which is actually the Jewish New Year. So in the traditional Jewish calendar, this is the beginning of the year. This day, in Hebrew belief, this is believed to be the anniversary of the creation of Adam and Eve, first man and woman, and their first actions towards the realization of humanity's role in God's world. So this is traditionally a time of prayer and personal reflection. I had a friend who practices the Hebrew traditions speak about Rosh Hashanah as being less celebratory and more reflective. Even though it is a new year, it's not the kind of New Year celebration where you have, like we do in January, where you have, hats and, champagne popping and that kind of thing. It's more of a reflection of the year that's gone by, what you've learned, and what you wish to take forward with you into the next year. So I think spiritually, this time of year is very much a time of year where we begin to let go of those things that we've no longer any use for. We sort of rejuvenate and sort of get ready for what's coming up. Even politically, everybody's now gearing up for elections, which will set what is going to be the agenda politically for the next year. So during this time, I think the autumn equinox tells us, as I said, about balance. It tells us about the in-between. There's sort of a twilight feel as the days begin to get darker earlier. And that gives us more of a cue, I think, that brings us more inward and less outward. When the summer is out, when the summer is in full swing, and the sun is out until 9 o'clock, and there's lots of barbecues and lots of fun things going on, and lots of beach time. It's a very youthful, it's a very outward, very expansive kind of feel. And as we get into autumn, then we start to turn within. We start to pull back a little bit. We have to, because the sun's not out as much, and not that we don't have fun, and not that we don't enjoy going on, hikes, for example, to see the leaves, or going for apple picking, or pumpkin patch celebrations and so forth that come up. But we begin slowly to turn within ourselves, to reflect, to meditate, to explore what we've learned when we were outdoors and playing and learning new things during the spring and summer. So I think Rosh Hashanah, for the Hebrews, has a broader meaning also spiritually for everybody. I think it's sort of the same sort of cyclical thing goes with any of the with any of the religions, or beyond that, just our cyclical existence here on earth. So in this autumn time, in this time of increasing twilight, maybe it's time to think about those things that you want to improve in your life. It's another really big theme that comes up around this time, is self-improvement. A lot of people decide to go back to school or learn something new. So it's it's an interesting time of year, and I'm glad to have it. It's my favorite time of year, mainly because, as I said, it's my birthday season. So happy autumn to all, and take some time to reflect. All right, so now we're going to continue our little discussion about the connectedness of our world. The World Together is the title of this episode, And it's interesting. There's two things that really came to mind this week about that issue. One is the Global Citizen Festival, which happened yesterday in New York, in Central Park, and brought together such diverse people as the World Bank President Jim Young Kim, the UN Secretary General Ban Ki-moon, actor Hugh Jackman, and lots of rock stars. Gwen Stefani was there, front and center. But it's a very interesting declaration to make at this time. There were about 60,000 people there, apparently. And this is the third annual festival for the Global Citizen Movement. It's a movement that seeks to, I think, reveal to people or remind people or help people understand how connected we are. And how much we need each other. The Secretary General, Ban Ki-moon, said that our world needs more solar power and wind power, but I believe in an even stronger source of energy, people power. That was greeted with great cheers at Central Park. And, the focus of this is mainly through what is known as the Global Poverty Project. And they are trying to get commitments to health and education throughout the world, women's equality. So that's what that is really about. But it also sort of sheds a light on how important it is and how much we are connected to each other increasingly. Nothing shows that better than the Ebola crisis that we are in now. Ebola is front and center now in our awareness. This terrible disease that is spreading rapidly throughout the West Africa and West African countries, and threatens to become a worldwide systemic threat. So much so that President Obama spoke about it this week to say that more needs to be done. He's initiating our commitment, but the world needs to be committed too. There's more money coming from the International Monetary Fund, about $130 million in emergency aid to some of the countries worst hit by this virus, which are Liberia, Sierra Leone, and Guinea. These are all West African countries. And I think the point was that, where when these things happen in Africa, people tend not to think about it too much. They have sympathy, of course, but it's in Africa, so we don't have to worry about it. But we do have to worry about it because this is something that can easily spread and become a significant threat to anybody in any nation. And so there's been a call for more urgent action. President Obama has said there is still a significant gap between where we are and where we need to be in fighting this virus. So we are seeing countries gathering together to help deal with this crisis. The other thing that comes through as far as our sense of connectedness is this interesting twist of events that has happened where we are now trying to degrade and destroy this terrorist group known as IS or ISIL or whatever they're calling it now. So in order to bomb them, we have now had to make connections and friends with people we were threatening to bomb maybe a year ago, such as the leader of Syria, and also we're working with Iran as well to help fight this crisis. So we are in a situation where we are where we were trying to topple or help those who are trying to topple the Assad regime in Syria. Now we are helping Assad fight a different sort of threat. And it's just interesting that it seems like we can't really afford to be on the wrong side of each other in the world today. And maybe we create these things. Maybe we create things like ISIL and the Ebola to remind us of that. To remind us of how much we need to work together and how vulnerable we are when we see ourselves as separate. So, all right, in the last minutes of the show now, I'd like to return to our continuing discussion about research, psychic research. Last week, I mentioned a meta-analysis study that looked at 26 studies that were done over 30 years, which show an astonishing physiological reaction that suggests that neural activity of the brain is triggered in response to stimuli before they are even present in linear time. In other words, they call these pre-stimulus responses or predicting unpredictable events before they occur. The phenomena is sometimes called presentiment. That's in sort of sensing the future, and is sometimes explained in terms of a consciousness field. In other words, that there is a energetic field in which things are created, and that these things are all happening sort of all at once, even though they show up in a linear fashion in our consciousness field. There are studies that have been done that suggest that the mind doesn't end at the boundaries of the skull and actually influences things in the external world, such as quantum objects, thoughts and behaviors of other people, and even the flow of electrical currents. I think that's pretty well established. I hope it is anyway. The brain is what stops at the skull, not the mind. The mind is something else again. So this consciousness field is where thoughts actually take place. And according to renowned physicists such as Amit Goswami and Michio Kaku, it's the ground of being itself. And of course there's the theory that we talk about a lot, which is the unified field of consciousness. Something that also is known as superstring field. And this unified field of consciousness means that not only do we share a collective consciousness with all sentient beings in the universe, we are also literally one with all events in space-time. So we are these events. As we become more aware, we can sense them. And also we talked about another study called Feeling the Future, which gives evidence that there are retroactive influences on cognition and affect In other words, the concept is retrocausation, that students were able to guess at future events at levels of accuracy beyond what would be expected by chance, and that future events influenced what was taking place in the past. So that was fascinating too. But what this article is up at noetic.org by Cassandra Vieten. She talks about the fact that even though we have this existing literature and these scientific studies, they are also very often routinely dismissed. The science journalist Jonah Lehrer writes about the research findings on psi phenomena. They've been demonstrated dozens of times, often by reputable scientists. Why then do serious scientists dismiss the possibility of psi? Why do rational people assume that parapsychology is BS? Because these exciting results have consistently failed the test of replication. But that's not true. These things are being replicated all the time. Now, some of the studies are statistically significant, although they are small. But as she points out in this article, the double standard that's applied to the potential importance of these small effects is astounding. The effects sizes reported in this study that she's talking about are generally much larger than the effect sizes associated with many well-accepted scientific facts, such as taking aspirin to prevent heart attacks, or risks of blood clots from taking tamoxifen if used in the prevention and treatment of breast cancer. So a lot of things that scientists readily accept as fact have less statistically significant evidence to support them than psi does. But again, it's something that really comes down to whether or not you want to accept it or not. It's not about science anymore. It really isn't. So we're running out of time here. I have to close. But we'll continue this discussion. Until then, have a wonderful week. Enjoy your reflections of autumn.